A magnetic brand is the number one most valuable thing you can build today for yourself because the world does not reward the most qualified anymore. It rewards the most seen and most remembered. I have literally watched people with half the credentials beat people with 10 times the expertise and experience just because of their brand. This is why I grew my LinkedIn to 200,000 followers. I haven't had to apply for a job in the past 3 years. Companies have been reaching out to me and competing against each other to hire me. So here is the full blueprint to creating a magnetic brand for yourself, starting with 3 core elements. And the most important one is having a clear, specific point of view that you can share with the world. Now, here's what most people get wrong. They try to appeal to everyone and they end up invisible to everyone. A magnetic brand stands for something specific, not generic. So let me show you the difference. Something generic might sound like, I am a marketing professional with 5 years of experience. Something a lot more magnetic and memorable would be, I help B2B SaaS companies turn free trial users into paying customers. Another example, generic would be software engineer seeking opportunities. Magnetic would be, I build mobile apps that people actually want to use, focusing on finance and productivity tools. So in both of these examples, you can see the difference, right? The first sounds like everyone else. The second sounds like when somebody actually needs a person who checks those boxes, you are the only name that they think of. Now, why this gets you hired is because specificity makes you memorable and easy to slot into a role. You're not competing with everyone else in your field. You own a very specific space that you've carved out for yourself in that field. So when that need arises, you become that obvious choice. And here's something that nobody talks about. Being specific doesn't limit your opportunities, as counterintuitive as that sounds. It actually creates them because people can only recommend or think of you if they clearly understand what you do. You see what I'm saying? The second element to having a magnetic brand is showing consistent proof of your expertise. So let me be brutally honest about something. Your reputation isn't what you say about yourself, it's the evidence that you put into the world to prove that. When I was transitioning from a data scientist to a full-time content creator, I didn't just update my LinkedIn headline and hope for the best. I started sharing. So frameworks I was building to scale my business, problems I was solving in the collaborations I was doing with companies that were sponsoring me, how I was thinking about content strategy and LinkedIn growth in my new chapter as a full-time content creator. You need to demonstrate competence before the interview ever happens. So think about it. While other candidates are claiming expertise on a resume that might never even get opened, you are proving it publicly. You're essentially auditioning in public, giving hiring managers a months-long demonstration of how you work. And why this gets you hired is because hiring managers have already test-driven your thinking through the content that you've put out into the world. By the time you have a conversation with them, they already believe you can do the job. The interview just becomes a formality. It's just a mutual fit discussion, not an interrogation. This is the unfair advantage. You are already the obvious choice. And then the third element of a magnetic brand is strategic visibility in the right places. Now, I know what you're thinking, Megan, this sounds like a lot of work, and you're right. But here is what is also true. Applying to 100 jobs you'll never hear back from is also a lot of work. But the difference between those two is that one actually gets you results. You need to be present in the spaces where your industry's decision makers and hiring managers are already hanging out. For most of you watching this, that would be LinkedIn. For some, it could be Twitter or X if you are specifically in tech, Medium or Substack if you are a writer, YouTube or TikTok if you are in more creative fields, GitHub if you're a developer, industry Slack communities, wherever the conversations in your field are actually happening. And why this element matters is because opportunities will come to you from you being top of mind. When someone needs to fill a role or hears about an opening, they don't think about the 200 resumes that are sitting in their inbox that they have to sift through. They think about people that they see regularly. So people who have been sharing valuable insights, asking smart questions, and contributing to conversations. Every piece of content you create works 24/7 as your advocate to potential employers. It's like having a sales team that works for you while you sleep. Okay, so here's how you actually build this magnetic brand. The very first step is to define your message. First, you gotta get clear on your niche. And I know find your niche sounds like the most vague advice ever, but let me make this more concrete for you. Your niche needs to be specific enough that you own it, but broad enough that opportunities exist. So let me break that down. A very simple framework that you can start with is thinking of I help who do what? And so let's think through a few examples. One could be, I help early stage startups build their first marketing strategies with limited budgets. Or I help product teams make data-driven decisions without getting lost in analysis paralysis. I help small businesses automate their workflows using no-code tools. So you can kind of get to yours by asking yourself, when I say this, do people immediately understand what I do and who should hire me? If yes, then you're good. Now, if people scratch their heads and say, interesting, so what do you actually do? You gotta get more specific. Then this framework becomes your professional identity. It makes you easy to hire for specific roles. When a recruiter sees this, they instantly know if you're the right fit and there's no guessing. So here is your action step for this week. Write your I help do what statement and update your main LinkedIn profile headline to reflect this. Do that today. And this is week 1 of building a reputation that will precede you. Okay, now step 2 to building this magnetic brand is creating content that demonstrates hireability for you. This is where most advice gets very intimidating for most people and makes you think you need to be some thought leader with a decade of experience to make a post. First of all, that's your imposter syndrome talking. Second of all, let me tell you what actually works, especially if you are earlier on in your career, because early on in my career was when I started to figure this all out. You need 3 types of content working together. And the good news is you don't need to be some CEO, executive, senior leader, or expert to create any of these. First is your learning journey and observations. This could be things about what you're noticing, learning, or questioning, or struggling with in your field. Okay, so let me show you some examples of me having done this in the past through my own LinkedIn posts. Now, why this worked for me and why it works for everyone else that I teach about this is because I showed that I'm curious, I'm self-aware, and I think critically about my work. That is exactly what hiring managers want in their candidates, especially in early career roles. They want people who show that they want to learn and grow. Step 2 in creating content that shows your hireability is showing your problem solving. How you approach challenges, even the small ones, speaks volumes. And you can share your failures here. Like, in fact, most of my viral posts were ones where I got really raw about all the times that I failed. So let me show you some of those examples. And why this part matters so much is because you are demonstrating that you can think through problems, learn from your mistakes and experiences, and improve. And this will show that quality of coachability and growth potential for those hiring managers. And then the last part is engaging with your field. And this type of engagement matters because you are showing that you are engaged and you're curious and you're plugged into the relevant conversations that are happening in your industry. You are actively trying to stay current and connect with the most important ideas that are happening. You want to pick 1 to 2 platforms where your industry hiring managers actually spend most of their time. So for a lot of you, that will be LinkedIn. And you want to keep in mind that tackling 1 good platform well beats tackling 3 platforms very poorly. So here is the 2-week action plan that I recommend. Choose your 1 or 2 platforms, optimize your profile on there, and follow 20 to 30 leaders and companies in your space. Start getting familiar with the conversations that are happening in your industry. Here's the thing you might not realize. Every post is essentially demonstrating how you think in a public interview. When you eventually talk to someone, they've already been evaluating your approach for weeks or months. You are pre-sold before the conversation even starts. So now, step 3 of building your magnetic brand is to be consistently visible, because we all know the real results happen when you are consistent. Aim for weekly content minimum. This will keep you top of mind without burning yourself out. You also want to think about quality over quantity. So 1 genuinely valuable post per week beats 7 mediocre ones. I would rather you post just once a week with real insight than daily with fluff. Also keep in mind that engagement matters just as much as posting. You want to comment on 3 to 5 posts per day. Reply to people who are genuinely engaging with your content. Be genuinely helpful in discussions, and keep in mind that this is free visibility and relationship building without having to actually make a dedicated post. What I have seen works best for my students is they spend 20 minutes a day engaging thoughtfully on others' content, and they post one piece of their own content per week. That should take about 2.5 hours a week total. Not a big deal. So then in 3 to 6 months, they end up getting inbound messages. In weeks 3 and 4, you want to be creating and publishing your first 2 to 3 pieces of content. So share something that you're learning, give an observation on a trend, tell a story about a problem you have solved. Don't overthink it, just aim for value and not perfection. So then by weeks 4 and beyond, you kind of get into your own groove. You should be commenting thoughtfully on 3 to 5 posts daily, reply to everyone who engages with your content, and publish 1 post per week. That should be the goal. Be helpful, but not self-promotional. Building a reputation that works for you requires consistency and familiarity. When hiring managers have seen that you show up with valuable insights for months consistently, reaching out to you feels natural and low risk. You're not a stranger to them because you're someone whose work they have already seen and they already respect. And so all of this is the compound effect I talk about constantly. That first month will feel like you're shouting into the void, but month 3, you're starting to get noticed, and month 6, you are getting opportunities that you didn't even apply for, and that's exactly what happened to me. The goal at the end of the day is to make yourself easy to find and hire. Your profile should already be optimized from week 2. Make your expertise and how to reach out to you immediately obvious, and when someone thinks, I need to hire someone who does X, they should already be able to find you, understand what you do, and contact you in under 60 seconds. You want to remove all friction for them. Okay, now let me show you what actually happens when you do build a magnetic brand for yourself. These are some real LinkedIn messages that I have received over the past few years. Consistent pattern that I want to point out here is when you have visibility that creates opportunities, the conversations that come to you come pre-sold. You're not convincing anyone that you're qualified, they already know that. So you get to decide between all of these for the right fit for you. And that's the major transformation that having a magnetic brand allows you to achieve. You get to go from just a commodity applicant to a scarce resource, from somebody who is just a job hunter to the one who is being hunted, from please pick me to let's see if this is a mutual fit. Keep in mind, this is not going to happen overnight because it does take months, maybe years of consistency, but it will work for you as long as you stick to it. So here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. Most people only think about their professional reputation when they desperately need a job. And by then it's too late. You are starting from zero and competing with hundreds of others in the same desperate position. But the people who get hired easily, the ones who have multiple offers, who get to negotiate from a position of strength, they're the ones who have built their professional brand that has pull before they even need it. They've been demonstrating expertise, building visibility, and becoming the obvious choice for months, if not years, before they need that job. The traditional job search advice out there says to send out more applications, customize your resume, follow up, network at events. That all sounds great and dandy, but in reality, the best opportunities come from visibility and relationships, not just applications. I have built my entire career this way, going from financial analyst to a data analyst to a data scientist to now a full-time content creator with over 350,000 followers across all my platforms, by consistently sharing valuable content and building genuine relationships that come from that content. No mass applications, no begging for opportunities, just me sharing consistent value that made opportunities find me first. The best time to start was 6 months ago, and the second best time is now. If you follow this system, you define your message this week, optimize your profile next week, start creating content in week 3, and maintain that weekly posting rhythm with daily engagement, 30 days from now, you will have a solid foundation. 90 days from now, you will see your first inbound message from a recruiter. 6 months from now, those recruiters and hiring managers will be keeping tabs on you, I promise. I have seen this work hundreds of times for my students and for myself. It works, but it does require consistency. So stop competing for jobs and start building visibility that makes jobs compete for you. If you want the complete framework for building your LinkedIn presence and using it to turn into your long-term career opportunity magnet, including exactly what to message recruiters, what to post, when to post it, how to turn visibility into actual job opportunities, make sure you check out my Mastering LinkedIn course that I will link in the description below. If you start putting this into action today and you stumble on any roadblocks, make sure to leave a comment and I'll be happy to help out in any way possible. Also, my last ask is to subscribe if you want more transparent career advice that actually works, because I have lived and tried all of this advice myself, and I am finally sharing everything that I have learned by having 5 jobs in the past 5 years and using those experiences to build my own successful creator business. I do the opposite of sharing traditional advice when it comes to careers, and that is my passion. So make sure you like this video and subscribe to follow along for more. I will see you guys in the next one.